lost you on camera. You're gone. Oh, there you're back. Okay, so today is Monday, April 27th. This is Scott Creighton from the Church Dog 42 channel, waving at the camera. And I am Aunt Phoebe, Aunt Phoebe, Barb Hammer.
Aunt Phoebe.
Aunt Baby.
Aunt Phoebe.
I love it when people, like, even in person, people call me Aunt Phoebe.
Oh, really? Really?
It's cute. I like being called Aunt Phoebe. I tell people I'm everybody's aunt.
Didn't I give you that name a long time ago?
If you're nice to me.
Didn't I give you that name a long time ago?
You
Is it
did.
me? I did.
Yes, you came up with the name of the channel
Aunt BB.
after I told you a story about my nieces.
Yeah, you did.
But it's a good name. It's a good name.
So I'm also recording, just for the record. I don't know how it's going to turn out with my lovely computer.
Right. Well, I'm just doing the Skype recording. So the Skype.
Okay.
Okay, so I've already actually started talking about what I call the Rona Scotia Rampage in Nova Scotia, Canada. That happened over a week ago. So it started late Saturday, April 18th, and it went into Sunday the 19th, when the alleged shooter, Gabriel Wortman, was shot dead at a gas station in Enfield, I believe, Nova Scotia. So there was a big
first he was arrested at the gas station.
Yes, I love that. And then, sorry, oops, he's dead. Oops, we made a mistake. He's dead.
We took him alive. No, we didn't. Yeah, we took boom. No, we didn't.
I know. That's what that was the first thing I'm going. Oh, I think actually I saw it reversed. He was dead, and then they said that he had been arrested. He was in custody. I think I'd seen it and like, okay, that makes sense.
Well, that's like the two shooters, the little midget woman and the guy. They said all the witnesses said were three large Caucasian athletic men. Those two in what was it? Was it California or was it Washington? They attended a Christmas party for the company. They left and then they came back shooting for some reason. Surprising and amazingly enough, they disguised themselves. The Hobbit and her boyfriend disguised themselves as three tall, athletic white men.
That was California, yeah.
California, thank you.
And was that like San Bernardino? Was that San
Bernardino?
Yeah. Okay.
And they were taken into custody after being shot. They were in handcuffs, lying on the ground, where they were shot getting out of the freaking vehicle. That was an interesting one too, because much like what happened in Oklahoma City, the reports were that there were three people in the SUV. They followed to a certain place and they shot them, and they allowed the driver to get out and take off and disappear. They were in the back.
Yeah.
That was the original version of that story. But they too disappeared for quite a while after the shooting until they were discovered, much like what happened in Canada.
Yeah, there's a big gap in the timeline between just before midnight, when they supposedly issued alerts on Twitter and Facebook, but that's it. And then like 8 a.m. they said, oh yeah, or I think the alert said to people to stay inside and lock their doors. And then in the morning they said, oh, by the way, he's dressed as a RCMP officer and driving an RCMP cruiser.
He's now driving several RCMP cruisers, and he's been described as a black officer, RCMP officer, and a white RCMP officer, and also a female RCMP officer. He's been described as all kinds of people. Yeah.
And
so what do we know? You were talking before about the changing of the story.
Yeah, when it doesn't hold up, it seems that they change it. Um, so, you know what? The first thing is I didn't see any red flags about this guy. He seemed like a decent guy and, you know, had a denture business, and his clients didn't see anything wrong in his behavior, and his wife or girlfriend worked at the business, and
Uh-huh.
they said it was a nice atmosphere. They always went in there and came out feeling better. It was a nice atmosphere. I didn't see anything wrong. I'm going, well, this doesn't make any sense.
Have they modified at all the what triggered him? What set him off? Well, all of a sudden now he breaks out the fucking RCMP vehicles. The one they had a picture in his garage that looked like it was the garage of the fucking RCMP, and decided to go killing people. Is there a reason?
They didn't. I don't think they really had a reason at first, so
Yet
that's
another one.
why it didn't. You know, it didn't make sense. Apart from, oh, you know, everybody. I guess they were saying, you know, well, everybody's been in lockdown or whatever, and perhaps he snapped. His business was shut down. Perhaps he snapped. I don't know.
So they did bring that back, because I heard speculation a week ago that they were gonna say maybe it was because he was, you know, in lockdown, and some people on lockdown are snapping, and have they brought that back, or are you just speculating?
No, that's what they were. I think that was one of the reasons, you know, the motive. They didn't really have a clear motive. So I think that's still out there, that could be a factor. But I think it's more about, oh, yeah, the latest thing, it's white male terrorism, the evil white man. Yeah.
That's all. That's all the motive they need nowadays for these. As long if you're white, that's it. You're just gonna. If you're white, you ain't right, and you're just gonna start killing people at any given time. And no one understands. Like the millionaire Stephen, what's his face from Vegas, millionaire, loving life, had a girlfriend, cruising around, everything's fine. Guess what? I woke up one day and I'm gonna kill all the people. So I'm afraid for myself, being a white man. I don't know when I'm going to go off, but apparently it's going to happen.
And did you know white men are always abusive to their girlfriends and partners? Jealous. So he's the jealous white male terrorist. That was the other. And then it was not clear, like, was there a girlfriend? Was there a wife? And then they were just like saying, oh, yeah, it was abusive to like 2 or 3 exes. I don't know one, but, you know, people just make up stuff.
Yeah. So are we still with, is the ex the only one who survived still? I don't.
Yeah, apart from the guy that was on the list, but he didn't get, yeah. So it's a girlfriend, you know. It was another weird thing is, okay, correct me if I'm wrong. I would think that if there's a rampage like this, that some people are wounded, but not necessarily killed.
Right.
And there wasn't anyone in the hospital wounded, just everybody's dead. Everybody's suddenly dead. Right. And then they said, okay, well, the girlfriend, she got away.
Right.
So, and she got shaken up, so they had to take her to the hospital. I don't know. But I thought it was weird. Am I wrong in thinking that way? Like,
no. That's listen, I've talked about this before with these shooting events. It takes training to be able to hit a moving target. You're not just going to spray and pray and wipe out everybody in the fucking building with 100% mortality rate.
Yeah.
It takes training. It also takes training to pull the trigger on a human being. Yeah. Or it takes serious psychosis. Go back to Vietnam when people were, being drafted back in those days, and they were grabbing everybody in. What was the rate of people that would be killed in the first 2 weeks? And they figured out the reason why is because after all that training and rah, 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 go America stuff and demonizing the little, Asian people.
Yellow people.
Right. After all that, they would still get over there. They would still get in the shit, and they would have somebody in their sights, and they would shoot over their head.
Yeah.
and they figured out the percentage of that was pretty damn high. That's why the lifespan was 2 weeks. So the average lifespan was 2 to 3 weeks at a certain point. It's not something that the average person can just do. And even if Joe Whitey goes off and goes crazy like all Joe Whiteys do, apparently, it still takes training to be able to do that. I mean, shooting a paper target at a range. Oh, he went to the range all the time. Yeah, was the target screaming and running as fast as it could in a lateral direction? No? Okay, then what the fuck good is the range? The point is, that's when you say everybody he hit, he killed. That's a sign. That's a clue. That doesn't happen very often. I think the highest number, and again, there was a lot of confusion about this one, and a lot of speculation about this one. But there was a case which took all the guns in one of those Scandinavian countries. It was a camp that this guy went and shot up. Norway. It was a camp.
Yeah, I know who you're talking about, yeah.
Right. And this guy, don't know his background, but his kill ratio was 100%.
Yeah.
And people for a long time looked at that and said, people who know said that's, and he was shooting in some cases over extreme distances, and again, moving targets. So yeah, that's a problem. That's extremely problematic.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Well, I'm new at this. You've been watching these shootings for a while, but that was just jumped out at me. Okay, how come nobody's wounded? There's just certain things that were making me suspicious of the story, and that was one. But that's why I'm asking you, and you said, yeah, that's
one of the first ones in the Gladio series, I believe. If you don't include Fort Hood, one of the first ones was the shooting in Aurora at the Century 16 Theater with James Holmes.
Yes.
And whoever went in there, and it wasn't, in my opinion, wasn't James Holmes. They found him drugged in the passenger seat of a car that was locked. They had to bust a window to get him out. And they found another set of tactical wear outside the car while he was wearing a set of tactical wear inside the car, drugged. Pretty obvious it was somebody else. Anyway, interesting about that. The AR-15 that was used by whoever went in with the smoke grenades, canisters, the AR-15 was dropped pretty quickly. Only a few people were hit with the AR-15s. Then the individual brought out a shotgun. Notice the similarities between the riot shotgun used there and the AR-15 used there and the riot shotgun that was found supposedly on him and the fucking AR-15. These are weapons that they want out of the public hands.
Yes.
For, I guess, if you consider what's happening right now or in the near future, for good reason, I guess. But interestingly enough, then he switched to the shotgun, which was loaded with birdshot. Now, if you think somebody's going to go in there and want to kill as many people in the room as possible, you don't load birdshot, you load buckshot. Birdshot's basically the size of BBs. And it can do a lot of damage. You can actually kill if you hit one person real close with a tight choke on the weapon. But the choke was very loose, had a wide spread.
Yeah.
What he was doing was, whoever was doing it wanted as many casualties, as not fatalities, but casualties as possible. They wanted a lot of people to be injured. So they fired the AR-15, did a few kills, whatever, and then switched to the shotgun with the birdshot. Interestingly enough, also, if you talk about Boston bombing, they waited until well after the end, when all the press would be there and the real runners would be there. They waited till an hour or so after that, and they had the stragglers coming in, and then the thing goes off. The things go off. But were they loaded with nuts and bolts and buckshot and big shot like that? No. They were loaded with small BBs actually, they weren't even BBs. They were Barons, but very small caliber Barons, very small, and brad nails. One girl was killed because she was so close to it, and it tore off one of her legs, and she bled to death, unfortunately. I mean, it's all unfortunate.
I know.
But again, they were looking for whoever did that. They were looking for as many injuries as possible. In this case, apparently, they were just looking for all fatalities, which is highly suspicious.
And a dog has been killed, supposedly. I don't know.
Whose dog?
I don't know. You know, there's so much stuff. I don't know.
You're supposed to stay on top. You're a Canadian citizen. It's patriotic to stay on top of all of this.
But it's just there's so many details just kind of thrown out there. I think that's part of the problem. Like if it were if it were a story that made sense, you know, after days of reconstructing what happened, it should be clearer in people's minds what had happened. No, I don't know. I know there's going to be confusion at first in any kind of situation.
Yes.
But it just seems like it's just constantly changing, and it's hard to keep track of everything because they just keep throwing things out, speculation, this and that.
Yeah.
So it never holds up.
Yeah.
So, another thing is the firearms. So I think I was wondering about this. I don't think he actually was banned from owning right now. I think it was maybe a temporary ban from an assault back in the early 2000s. So that's the thing in Canada. They don't necessarily ban people from owning firearms permanently. So I think it was temporary. I don't know. But the whatever firearms he was using, if they were his, they weren't legally registered or something. I don't know. But that's why it doesn't make sense where they're saying, oh, we need stricter gun laws. And I saw in that Facebook group about the shooting that I joined just to see what they're saying. They're saying, well, what needs to be done is that people who have a criminal record and shouldn't be having firearms, that the RCMP should be allowed to go in their homes and search every now and then. And you know what? I put a comment. I said, why don't we just give the RCMP the keys to all our homes and they can come in whenever they want? And people thought I was serious, and they actually replied to me. I was being sarcastic. They thought I was serious.
Truth isn't the first casualty of war. Humor is the first.
I know. I thought it was funny. Why don't you just give the RCMP the keys to your home? And somebody replied and said, well, yeah, they should be allowed to come in and inspect to make sure you got your firearms locked up. Great. Like, really? Okay.
And while you're at it, why don't you give them first night rights where when you get married, they get to come in and have sex with your wife? I mean, if we're going to do feudalism, let's go all the way with it. Come on.
That group, they don't have any sense of humor. And I also will, I don't know. I said somebody said that there used to be in Canada some sort of Second Amendment or gun rights in Canada before I think Trudeau repatriated the Constitution or something. I don't know. I don't know anything what they're talking about.
That's the current Trudeau's father?
Yeah, Pierre Elliott. In Quebec, they just called him Elliott because they didn't consider him a real francophone. Anyway, and I pointed out, they were saying, oh, Canada's a sovereign country. And I said, no, it's not. I said, the Queen is still the head of state. And they said, well, she doesn't have any power. And I said, well, why don't you ask Australia, Gough Whitlam, in that coup, where the Governor General representing the Queen in Australia said, okay, you're out as Prime Minister. Ask them whether or not the Queen is just a figurehead. Ask them that. Yeah, that's a very interesting case. I love that. there was a coup in Australia.
Didn't they try to make the same fucking argument in the lead up to the Revolutionary War? So yeah, but we're a colony. Yeah, but the king doesn't have any powers. They were paying taxes to the motherfucker. They had standing armies, in his daughter's bedroom. The king doesn't have any power.
Well, that's the thing. That's one of the big questions on the citizenship test. And most Canadians don't get it right. Well, if you ask them who the head of state is, they'll say the prime minister. Because they don't get it right. So, that Facebook group is a lot of fun to read.
How old is she's got to be like 500 years old now, right?
She was born she's a contemporary of my mother. So she is 94. 94.
Wow.
And Philip's even older. And I think they're saying he's looking frail. He probably won't last much longer. I don't know.
He's 106.
He's like 98. He's like 98 or something.
I'm just making a joke.
Yeah, but my mother actually resembled the Queen for a while there. I had a picture and I'd show it to people here and they go, wow. It's the German, because they are the Nazi.
They are Nazis, yeah.
Yeah, the Windsors. I should just call it the House of Nazis.
All right, so what are we talking about next? We're going to talk about what? So you're going to keep up on this with the events up there? I tell you the truth, I did some stuff on it and looked, and it was just so fucking ridiculous.
I know it is. It's crazy.
Yeah.
And then the lawyer, I think there's talk of a lawsuit against the RCMP. And I think you saw there was an article where the RCMP, they're just kind of shutting down any questioning.
Yeah.
They were giving press conferences. Now they're just issuing press releases because they don't want any questions asked.
They did the same thing in Vegas. Remember that?
Ah.
They kept changing the story in Vegas.
Yeah.
And then they changed it once again. It was so obvious they were changing it to take fucking so the hotel, the casino couldn't be fucking sued, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and they started, and that was after that. It was it. They just said that's it. We're not taking any more questions. We're not doing any more fucking because we're just making this shit up as we go along.
Yeah. There was also an FBI profiler that they brought in, and there was a news report about this FBI profiler talking about grievance shooters or something. There are these people that have these grievances that build up and then that was his profile of so the FBI, we know how reliable the FBI is and trustworthy FBI. So an FBI profiler is telling us.
You're the expert. Yes, I am. So what's your expert opinion as to why he did this? He lost his shit.
Yeah.
Ooh, he lost his shit, did he? Yeah, he lost his shit big time. He went boom, boom. He went like crazy.
Yeah, they're making it sound like he just snapped, but also another story is too.
White guys will do that shit, man. White guys will do that.
I don't trust you guys. I just don't trust you guys at all. No. Another story is they're saying, he planned this for years, like a couple of years, really?
He planned it for years, and yet
did he plan it, or did the RCMP plan it?
He planned it for years, and yet he drove right by the dude's house who was on the fucking list, and he left the list at home. And he planned it for years.
Yeah,
and she was able to get away from the damn handcuffs.
I love that.
And he planned it for years. Is he just that stupid? He's a dentist. He went to medical school, and yet he's that fucking stupid. Really? Really?
I say the RCMP planned it for years.
Now, nobody planned this for more than a fucking hour and a half is the way it's looking to me. I don't know what this is.
I mean, it's really screwed up. The RCMP can't even pull off a false flag properly. God. Yeah, it's crazy.
So what else are we talking about? We're talking about you're kind of getting on a bunch of people on Twitter about them tacitly supporting fucking the red baiting China fucking stories. Any news on that? You said you were going to talk about do a video in the near future about that.
Mm-hmm. It's getting on my nerves. It's really getting on my nerves. And Jake, my husband, pointed out, oh, did you know Global Research has a new James Corbett article published? And I said, yeah, they publish anybody. So I looked, and James Corbett, okay, he's going to say, his latest article, he says that there's going to be another wave of the virus. So they're going to blame the protesters, and they're going to blame China. But Corbett's thing is the conflict with China, just like the conflict with USSR, was all fabricated. It's all, it's this orchestrated conflict. Well, what? That's his thing. And that China is part of the New World Order. So China and the US, everybody, they're all bad. And it's about, authoritarian governments around the world. And then they're all bad. And this is the libertarian.
Government bad.
Yeah, government bad. Government bad. And China's complicit. And the Wuhan lab thing won't die. And people who should know better, and you know who I'm talking about, are still pushing that bullshit.
Well, I did see a video made today, I think, this morning, or at least this morning by Corbett. And he was talking about something. Oh, he's talking about putting in place this, what do they call it? They don't call it tracking, they call it tracing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
What do they call it? What do they call it? Tracing?
I guess. If I know what you're talking about, I think. I don't know.
Oh, come on, goddammit.
It's like an app or something? Is he talking about an app where they trace people?
He's talking about the fucking, the way they're trying to get, all these people are trying to get, they had the Clinton initiative. I thought the Clinton initiative was dead and gone. But the Clinton initiative, apparently, Bill Clinton is looking like a fucking, he's looking like the fucking old pedophile fucking Muppet from Sesame Street. If you were to have a old pedophile fucking Muppet from Sesame Street, that would be Bill Clinton. So he's sitting there talking to somebody about, I think he's talking to Cuomo at one point in time, and somebody else, some reporter someplace, talking about they need to create this some kind of tracing. And it's a term that's all over the place now, right? And the idea is that they're tracing people who are ill, and whoever they come into contact with, then they're going to be tracing them. And of course, those people, whoever they come into contact, they'll be tracing them, and so on and so on and so on and so on exponentially until you're tracing everybody. And of course, he's making, good points about it, talking about how this is, extremely intrusive. This is what they used to. He doesn't use this term, but I've made the point before. This is total information awareness. This is something that came out during the fucking Bush days and Cheney days, and it's now being promoted with the new neocons and the Trump administration, and it's being brought in under the guise of trying to protect you. And he rightly says this is one of these things that even after this ends, they're not going to give this up. This is going to continue. And he was showing that they're asking to bring in people from the Peace Corps and AmeriCorps and getting all these young people to work for free, fucking monitoring this and adding information to this. And it's just a massive fucking intrusion into every aspect of everybody's life. Anybody who's come in contact with, somebody who came in contact with, or somebody came in contact with, in real time. But he does, at the end of it, he's talking about this, saying, yes, this is business is doing this, but we all know that it's government. Government is the one who's doing this. But then he does say, in this country, you can't tell the difference. It's fascism. And you can't tell the difference between the government and business because they're so intertwined now. So he did make that point. Okay. He didn't bring up comparing it to China and China spying on citizens. He didn't say that. at least in the segments, the 3/4 of it that I watched.
Mm-hmm.
But that was interesting. And that was worth people, I think I shared that, that was worth people's time taking a look at and saying what he's talking about. Whatever this tracing is, they don't call it what it should be called, which is total information awareness.
Yeah. But I don't think he makes a distinction between China and the US or the West, generally.
I don't think he makes a distinction between any government
Yeah, right. Yeah.
and any other government.
As though all governments are the same.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I think that's the problem. And that's what I'm saying, like people supposedly opposed to authoritarian governments wherever they are. I'm going, okay. What are you talking about? Cuba? Venezuela? Nicaragua? That's what I'm wondering. China? What are you talking about? This is vague kind of, well, oh yeah, I'm not anti-China. I just oppose authoritarian governments of any kind or something.
Right.
Okay. As though all government is authoritarian or something. I don't know.
Right.
And China is the biggest, the US's biggest rival right now in this new Cold War. So, yeah, it's like Corbett will talk about this imaginary conflict between China and the US.
Now talk about the conflict as if it's imaginary?
Yeah, like it's all orchestrated, that this is the plan. China is in on this, complicit in this conflict or something. And I don't see how, like, he doesn't have evidence to back it up, other than that China does business with everybody. They're not trying to get into a conflict with anyone. It's the US that's pushing conflict.
Well,
I don't know.
it would be easier for us to identify a legitimate conflict if China didn't own so much fucking of U.S. interests and property and real estate and debt. Then we could treat them like we treat Iran. We could treat them like we treat Venezuela or Cuba or Nicaragua. We could sanction them. We could do all these things to them. We could even fucking set up a fucking a naval blockade, like we are doing with some aspects with Venezuela. We could do that with China, but we can't because China's too powerful. China's too strong.
Oh, they do little things like the,
They do little things. They try to undermine China in other countries. They do, like the thing with the Kenyans when China's getting too close to Kenya. Oh my God! All the Chinese people hate the black people, and especially you people in Kenya. Yeah. So there's still competition going on. We're still trying to destabilize Hong Kong to bust it off from China. And that's a very real conflict there.
Yeah. But Corbett never talks about any of that.
Right.
You know, have you noticed that? He never talks about any of that stuff. No. Right. None of that.
Well, you know my opinions on James Corbett. Some of the stuff he does is very good. Other stuff, he is a libertarian, which is a neoliberal lite. Libertarian Party was and the ideology, but the party was created. Hayek and those guys predate this, but the party was created right after the fucking Lewis Powell memo. Right. And the idea was, we need to bring people in and give them an alternative, which isn't really an alternative. It's really the Washington consensus. And the only difference was, no foreign interference.
It's very popular right now. And a lot of young people, especially, have gotten drawn into this. And for obvious reasons, because, business interests are controlling government. And so government is terrible right now in the West. Yeah. Yeah. So I get that. But the problem is that there's this, I don't know what it is, why it's so popular. I guess it's no historical memory of when you had Keynesianism or, government was never perfect. in the U.S., but it was definitely better before Reagan introduced neoliberalism.
Yeah.
I mean, when I grew up, this is not possible now. So my parents, they didn't make a lot of money. My mom went back to work after I started school, but they were bound and determined to get all their kids through college. 4 kids. Now, that would not be possible now, but it was then. So tuition was low, was reasonable. So, it was public college system in Virginia University was very good. Tuitions were relatively low. I stayed in a dorm, so there was room and board. I got financial aid, and my dad just wrote a check every semester, because it wasn't that much money. He didn't low tuition, low room and board for living in a dorm, financial aid. So it was nothing for him. He wrote a check. We weren't wealthy,
Right.
but they were. That's not possible now.
No.
Because of neoliberalism and undermining public services and public education.
Right.
Yeah. And so I guess younger people, they have no memory of that or something. I don't know what the.
No memory of that. And
I've heard people saying, oh, boomers like me were privileged, grew up in privilege. No, we just had a real middle class then. I didn't grow up privileged. I was luckier than some. But that's not privilege. Like people were calling privilege, when we had a real middle class. That's not privilege. How is that privilege? That's how it should be.
Yeah. Well, I guess by comparison, but yeah.
It's sad.
The thing that gets me is these libertarians don't understand, and it should be the most obvious thing in the fucking world to them. To people like Corbett or others out there, they should understand. They should step back and think about it for a second. Who was one of the very first haters politically in this country, aside from Thatcher? If you want to look back at Thatcher's fucking ages, Thatcher's work, that's another country, of course. But aside from fucking Reagan and Bush, who was one of the first true neoliberals and libertarians in this country? It's Bill Clinton. You go back and read and watch some of his State of the Union addresses. He is always talking about how proud every fucking year, giving you more information on how he is reducing the size of big government. And we got to get rid of big government. Big government's the problem. That's Bill fucking Clinton. That's the same guy who's pushing the fucking vaccine shit and pushing lockdown and pushing with the Clinton Global Initiative, this thing that what's his face was talking about and James Corbett was talking about just today. Mm-hmm. And he's sitting there going, oh, government bad, big government bad. That comes from Bill fucking Clinton.
Yeah, Bill Clinton, he moved the party, the Democratic Party, to the right so that they could win. That's what their plan was, and they abandoned the working class, and that's Thomas Frank's Listen Liberal book. But I mean,
to suggest that, hating on big government is the right isn't necessarily accurate. I mean, there have been things that were brought about that helped build the middle class that were brought about by the right as well. So it's not. He moved
it further to the right, like to the center. I mean,
well, right.
Yeah.
But here's my point, and it's very simple. He also mentioned James Corbett will use his own fucking words. He also talked about how big business is now in bed with fucking government, and that is called fascism.
Yeah.
What's the only thing that can fucking stop that? There's only one thing that can actually stop that. Only one. And that is a strong government.
Strong sovereign government, which China has. That's what they hate China.
Right. That's what Venezuela has.
Yes.
That's what Cuba has.
Yes.
That's why they hate leaders like Castro, like fucking Chavez. Mm-hmm. People who can't be bought. That's why they hated fucking Bernie Sanders back when he was pretending that in 2016, he did push it too far. They were getting pissed off and more pissed off.
Yeah.
Well, because he was exposing, he was forcing them to continue fucking rigging the election and stealing the election. They hate it when someone gets in their fucking notion in their head, the populist ideology, that they are actually someone there serving the people's interest and not the business interests. And that's why they hated fucking Castro. That's why they hated Fidel. That's why they hated Chavez.
Mm-hmm.
They really hated fucking Fidel because he said, you know, listen, I'll launch. Put your damn boots on my fucking beach. See what the fuck happens.
Yeah.
I got these things. I'll use them.
Yeah.
And he was.
We're not going back to
serious.
slavery before the revolution. Not going back. No.
Had he not done that, fucking Cuba would be just like Haiti now.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
You would have super fucking wealthy people. You would have a bunch of people from Miami happy and going back and forth and doing business. You'd have some nice resorts.
Mm-hmm.
And then you'd have fucking shanty towns, just tremendous fucking shanty towns. Mm-hmm. And the people, as you've been there yourself, you would know, the people who live there, they don't live like kings and queens, but they don't live like fucking
Haitians. But they have their basics. They have their
basics. They don't live like Haitians either.
No.
They're not working for 38 cents an hour because Hillary Clinton came in there and told their fucking Congress that they couldn't increase the minimum wage to 68 cents an hour. Yeah. That happened.
Yeah.
After the earthquake and the tsunami, or the tidal wave, whatever you call it over here. But anyway, the only thing strong enough to get that corruption the fuck out was a revolution which installed a strong government.
And they have a lot of local.
That's why they hate fucking government.
Okay, there's strong, like in Cuba, there's a strong central government, but there's local, like cooperatives and things. People think it's all, the government in Havana just controls everything. No.
What?
Local input, cooperatives and things.
What?
Yeah.
What?
It's a good mix. Yeah. And the poverty, a lot of the poverty is because of the sanctions. Like they have to deal with all these sanctions and economic blockades. That's a big problem there.
Right. Good. Look at Egypt. Look at Egypt after the revolution and Morsi came in. He was elected. The Muslim Brotherhood was allowed to be a party, and he was elected. And he kept putting off Obama and John Kerry and putting off Obama and John Kerry and signing the fucking IMF deal. Yeah. They really wanted to sign this fucking IMF deal, but he knew that was going to bring in structural adjustments and the structural reforms and things that would harm people of fucking Egypt. And they had fought and a revolution and got rid of a fucking dictator. He wasn't about to become the next one. So he put him off. They created this group to come up with a constitution, and they wrote a constitution. Everyone goes, it's Islamist. And people, even in the alt communities, that's one of the first places back in those days when I was understanding how infiltrated the fucking alt left really was.
Right. Yeah.
It's Islamist, and I said no, it isn't. It's published on my website, which they took down now, but you can read it yourself. It's not Islamist. It is purely anti-neoliberal. Yeah. All these things are rights in there, and rights to work, rights to education, rights to healthcare, rights to a home. Rights to dignity in terms of your workplace and stuff like that. All of these things, when they passed that constitution and then they put it forward for the referendum and it was approved for the referendum, that's when Obama gave John Kerry bring in al-Sisi. Right. 1,000+ people died. It was a bloody goddamn coup. They got rid of fucking Morsi, tore up the fucking constitution. The only thing that they're really afraid of, which is why they hate big government, that constitution would have kept neoliberal vultures from taking advantage of and profiting from and enslaving the people of fucking Egypt.
Yeah.
They couldn't allow it, so they had to get rid of it. So these libertarians, neoliberal lights, these libertarians, they should know. They should think about what it is. If they research the history and see who the really founding fathers of their ideology are. Yeah. It's not Hayek. No. The real founding fathers, and politically speaking in this country, the ones who subscribe to it, they might be surprised whose side they're actually on. And when they think about their hatred of big government, like James Corbett does and others, they should seriously think about what the alternative is becoming. And that alternative is exactly what he's made the goddamn video about today, calling it out, featuring video clips from Bill Clinton, who, by the way, is one of the fathers of the hate big government movement in this country. And there's my libertarian rant for the day.
Well, they also confuse business. They don't make a distinction between countries do business. Even in Cuba, there's lots of business.
Right.
They don't make the distinction between that and neoliberalism, which is privatized government that serves the interests of business, big business. They don't make that distinction, I think. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's very big brand. And it's really coming out now. Like, it's amazing. The people, I'm realizing that they're libertarian. And the demonization of China, that China's this big bad authoritarian government, and people claiming not to be neocons or anti-China, but not liking China. Well, isn't that neocon lite? I don't know what that is.
Yeah. Did you ever, in Whitney Webb's most recent piece talking about using this stuff from Epic?
Yeah.
Which, by the way, people should know, Epic is is an institution that, among other things, promotes regime change operations in other countries, neoliberal regime change operations, and that is not a stretch to say. That is quite obvious.
Yeah, that's the first thing when I had seen that Epic document someone else had shared. It was Julie from Book of Hours, actually. And this was before Whitney Webb's article came out. And so I looked at the document. I said, well, who's Epic? So Epic submitted the FOIA request. So I looked up I always like to see, okay, who are these people? And I realized it's a regime change NGO. And I said so to Julie, and she looked into who Epic was, and she said, yeah, I get it. And then Whitney's article came out. That was the document, the FOIA document she was talking about before the article came out. I'm going, oh my God. And Whitney didn't even mention who or what Epic is.
Well, I mean, she made a comment about in one of her discussions that, oh my God, they're going to turn us into China. Well, nobody's even allowed to own a car.
Yeah.
And I'm like, does she actually think, is there anything in the Epic documents that, because I had a thing with her back and forth about this on Twitter. And I said, I went to the release of that particular bill that was being crafted, and whatever it was that was looking for money to pump money into the security state to do more spying on us. There was nothing in there about China. They mentioned China like 3 times in there, stating that China has something like this and we need to, because they've already got it, we've got to up our fucking... It was talking about pumping money 10 times they have the money, 10 times more money now than they had before into the development of artificial intelligence and processing all of this massive data that they're getting from things like total information awareness. They want more money for research and development to keep pace with China. And I told her, I said, this sounds a lot like the old Team B shit, where you have representatives who are paid by the industry to help gin up fear and loathing, and then more money for the industry.
I remember.
It really isn't reflective of the truth.
Yeah.
But it seemed, but there was nothing in there about, they want us to have no cars and shit. But then she said there was these freedom, but that was published. The bill was published. It wasn't Freedom of Information Act. But then Epic comes along with this FOIA stuff. And I started looking through it, and it's the most. Some of it was just really just bizarre. Someone's opinion, someone's email to somebody else stating unsubstantiated opinion. It was really, it reminded me of WikiLeaks in that regard.
Right.
And then I never saw anything in there about China not being, people in China not being able to own cars. And I'm wondering where that comes from. Did you see when you were reading into that, any of that stuff? Did you see anything like that in that group of, for you?
I haven't looked through it's a longer document than I realized. I had glanced at it. I need to go through it. I don't know where they're getting that. It's just, these are sort of stereotypes or impressions people have of China, and they're based on basically propaganda that you hear about China. I don't know.
But they're based on the 50s. I mean, this is
the no cars thing. Yeah.
Right. This is McCarthyism. This is fucking Red Scare shit.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's fucking, people don't own cars in fucking China. Are you crazy?
Mm-hmm.
I pointed out, I think I was talking to you at one point. It's not China where you don't own cars. You never heard of leasing programs? We don't own cars here. When you buy a car, I own two cars. I own two piece of shit cars from 1990 and 1989. Yeah. That's what you can own. But these days, when you buy a car and you say, this is my car, where's the fucking pink slip? Oh, it's at the bank. Mm-hmm. Oh, the bank owns your car then. Yeah. And you give them money. Yeah. Every month. Yeah. So you can drive it. Yeah. How about the lease? Yeah. Well, who owns that car? The dealership.
Yeah. Yeah. And ride shares. There's that too.
And ride shares. Right. Yeah. And Uber. Somebody who also doesn't own that vehicle, and you just drive. You pay him to drive you around. So who owns car? Who doesn't own cars nowadays? China or us?
Yeah. And the other thing is the cashless society. And libertarians go on and on. Oh no, they're going to get rid of cash. And these are, a lot of them are the same people who are pushing digital currency, Bitcoin.
Right.
Like, and then they're freaking out about, oh no, cash. Like, really? And, you know, you and I have talked about how we don't carry cash, or I have a little bit right now just because of the situation.
Well,
I use cards. And a lot of people, they're the apps now on people's smartphones where they pay that way. What, Apple Pay or whatever. I don't know. I don't have that. And they're freaking about, oh no, they're going to get rid of cash. Like, that ship has sailed.
I don't even think you can pay. Can you pay Uber cash? I don't think you can.
No. Uber, no. They don't take cash. No.
So, I mean, it's already happened. What are you talking about?
Well, you know, occasionally I'll see an honest, very rarely, there might be a business article about how far ahead the U.S. is in AI and that sort of stuff than China. I'm going, okay, yeah. So it just gets exaggerated. The stuff about China just gets really blown way out of proportion, deliberately, for an agenda.
Yeah, for money. It's
all about money.
Because they want the fucking money. They want to demonize fucking China, and they want fucking money.
So...
And of course, Whitney's thing was, you know, and she's still doing it on Twitter. She's still going, yeah, these things came out. The Freedom of Information request came out, and Epic's got them, and they're not getting nearly enough attention.
What? I know. Jeez. Oh, yeah. And now Caitlin's picked up on that, too. Caitlin Johnstone.
I'm not surprised.
She did, yeah.
I said I'm not surprised.
China. She'll just sort of flat out say, oh, China. We all know China's authoritarian. And then she says, if you want the real truth, you get it from a libertarian website. That's what's Caitlin's thing in her latest piece. God.
You get it from a libertarian website? Really?
That's what she said, yeah. And that was reference, I guess, to the Last American Vagabond, I guess. I think. But she's another, so Caitlin has made a lot of money from pandering or catering to the libertarian crowd. Oh yeah, there's big money in that.
It's a big dollar. It's a hot dollar.
I call it the libertarian industrial complex. Is what I call it now. It's like the military industrial. It's the libertarian industrial complex.
It's a libertarian industrial complex. That's a hot dollar. That's a big dollar.
I know.
Any of you guys out there in marketing? Yeah.
I know.
Kill yourself. That's Bill Hicks.
Oh.
Yeah. It's a hot dollar. It's a big dollar. Oh, the Libertarian dollar. Oh, that's a big dollar.
I know, it's big money. It's amazing.
Yeah, you watch. I mean, you can...
I got some blowback. There's a term from Vanessa Beeley, and I was criticizing how in libertarian circles they were demonizing China, and Off Guardian has kind of jumped on board the Corbett train.
Well, you're a little harsh on. I gotta say, you're a little harsh on Off Guardian because I haven't seen them.
Well, I didn't say directly. This was what Vanessa Beeley got. Like I was saying that they've jumped on the James Corbett train, who demonizes China. That's what I said.
Well, but see, I haven't seen that. I mean, you have a tendency. You have a tendency. You have a tendency to criticize people for not saying what you think they should have said, or not including what you think they should have included in certain things. Well, you know, you've told me many times, well, he said this or she said that, but she didn't say this and she didn't bring up that. One of the last tweets you made was so didn't bring up, I don't know, Tiananmen Square, or like you said in this conversation, James Corbett doesn't bring up fucking Hong Kong at all, or what's going on with the destabilization there. So you do that quite often. I'm not entirely sure that Off Guardian is in support of demonizing fucking China.
I didn't say that directly. I said they jumped on the Corbett train. So their big author right now is Kit Knightley. So Kit Knightley was on Corbett's channel, you know, talking about the virus psyop, which is fun.
Kit Knightley comes from fucking Alex Jones.
Does he? I don't know anything about his background. Oh my God. Does he? Shoot.
Yeah. He had his own fucking show on Alex Jones's fucking thing.
Kit Knightley? He's a new face to me. I didn't know anything about him.
I'm pretty sure. I could be wrong, but it wasn't Knightley.
He's the big star at the Off Guardian right now, Kit Knightley. He's the big star at Off Guardian right now is Kit Knightley. Yeah.
Oh, is he? Mm-hmm. Maybe that's another Knightley that I'm thinking of. Maybe Kit is his.
Oh no, I know who you're talking about. No, this is a young guy. I know who you're talking about. The older guy with the beard. I can't remember his name. I know who you're talking about. No.
Michael?
No, I can't. I know who you're talking about. Okay, it's not Kit Knightley that you're talking about. You're talking about. I know who you're talking about. The guy. Yeah.
Okay. I don't know.
I know who you're talking about, but I can't think of his name. He's an older guy. This is a young guy. Kit Knightley is a younger guy. Yeah.
I'm wondering. Hang on a second. Is he the son of that guy?
Well, this guy is British, so I don't think.
There's a couple of former British people who were on early days on his show.
Well, Kit Knightley is younger, and it's not that older.
Okay, I guess not.
No.
Okay, there's another Knightley guy on fucking Alex Jones' show. Oh, good. Well, Kit Knightley is not Alex Jones. Good.
No.
I learn something new every day.
Yeah, okay. Kit Knightley is a younger guy. And, the funny thing is when Vanessa Beeley went off on me and she was saying I must retract or whatever, I said, she was talking about it was a blatant lie. And I said, well, when are you going to retract your blatant lies about Turkey? That's what I said to her.
And yeah, did she just block you?
No, she just ignored me. I was surprised that she reacted a couple of times to me like I'm a nobody. That surprised me. She went off on me.
Yeah. So, she just flat out blocked me a long time ago.
Yeah, I know. I'm surprised she hasn't, but I'm a nobody. But she, Off Guardian, I caught them, you know, they will sort of push that government bad thing every now and then. And I called them out on it once and they reacted and they said, oh, well, we're Corbyn supporters. And I'm going, I can't tell that by what you're saying.
They said that?
Yeah, they said, oh, but we're Corbyn supporters. When I said, you know, you're talking to like a libertarian now, government bad. And that was they got mad at me. I was surprised they reacted because I have such a small account. I can trigger people really good.
That's your gift.
No.
What's your gift? So, okay, we talked about that. We talked about the shooting thing. What else we got?
Well, we're kind of, I'm kind of caught. Uh, we're kind of caught in the middle between the virus. It's a psyop. I call it the mother of all regime changes. So and I call the economics the Great Suppression. So you got the Great Depression, only worse with this lockdown situation. So it's the worst of both worlds. So there's the crowd that, like Off Guardian, they're saying, things are exaggerated about the virus, and they talk about the statistics, how screwy those are. And then you have like the fake alt left, like Max Blumenthal's gang saying, oh, we need to stay in lockdown, and they don't like how China's being demonized. So I get kind of caught in between those two worlds, I guess.
Yeah.
Between the fake alt left and the sort of libertarian-esque crowd.
Yeah.
I guess, right? I don't know. That's how I see it.
Yeah, I mean it's not a fucking popular place to be.
No.
Until of course it is, and then everybody is Captain fucking Hindsight, and it's like Bernie bashing. All of a sudden, it's okay to bash Bernie on the left nowadays because Jimmy Dore figured it out.
No. Yeah.
So eventually they come around. They'll all come around to our way of thinking. It's like my shirt said, I'm always right, goddammit.
That was a mistake giving you the shirt.
That was.
You'll just trot it out. See, I'm right. I'm right. So it's a very strange situation. I've tried to explain this to Chinese. They don't understand what's going on in the West. Some of them are kind of getting it. They just think the West is totally mismanaging the virus. And I keep saying this outbreak clearly started in the US last year. There's so much evidence to show there's this mysterious lung disorder, pneumonia, or whatever it was, starting.
Yeah, but, how many coronaviruses are there?
They're different strains, yeah. They're different.
Okay. No. Coronavirus is a family.
Yes.
SARS
yes.
and MERS
yes.
are coronaviruses.
Yes.
There are a whole bunch of them.
Yes.
Not strains. There are different strains of COVID-19, which COVID-19 is the actual illness.
Yes.
SARS-CoV-2 is the actual virus. So how many there are many strains of that virus. I get that. But how many coronavirus fucking illnesses are there? And finding some that are similar, it's like the doctor said today, or in this video that I showed today, finding some that are similar, and anything that is similar, stamping it with fucking coronavirus so we can jack the fucking numbers up. And a doctor said that in a fucking interview, in a discussion with another doctor. That's absolutely wrong, but it certainly doesn't help us at all. By the same token, claiming that, okay, coronavirus is back because they had these symptoms and it was pneumonia and people died or people were very sick last summer, so it started here. That's not necessarily, you don't know that's the exact same thing. In fact, it's very hard for them even now to put a handle on exactly what this thing is, because they still don't know how it kills, which means they still don't know exactly what it is. And if they don't know exactly what it is now, how are we saying we know exactly when it started back in the States?
Coincidence theorist. I'm a coincidence theorist. Yeah.
Right? So I mean, it's close, and it could have been, but we can't say that verbatim. And that's exactly where it started. We don't know where it started. It's like saying that we know it's weaponized and it's somebody created it.
I'm not saying it's necessarily weaponized. I don't know.
Right.
And that's why I held off from really saying. People were saying, "Could you please look into this and where did it start? Where did it come from?" And I didn't know anything. And then I just saw some weird coincidences, and that's when I started talking about it.
Right.
Yeah.
Who knows? we know that the first time that this was
interesting. Every time there's any talk about this could have started in the U.S. from Fort Detrick or whatever, there's all this pushback against that. Any idea of that? Every time.
Well, we know that the first time it was officially reported by anybody, this particular SARS-CoV-2 was reported to anybody. It was reported to the World Health Organization on December 31st of the end of last year, 2019. Mm-hmm. That much we know.
Mm-hmm. That's when it was identified.
Whether it existed prior to that, it's hard to say. It's hard to say where it came from. Could very easily have been something that came out of Fort Detrick or Fort or any of the other fucking facilities we have here, the level 4 facilities we have here. Don't know.
Well, it's just strange that they keep pushing back against the idea that it could come from the U.S. and keep insisting that it came from the Wuhan lab or that the Chinese were complicit somehow.
Right. That's
what's strange. There's always this pushback about any notion, any suggestion that it could come from the U.S. Right. Every time.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
That's what I always find very suspicious.
Yeah.
Yeah. They always have to say, and the people will say, some people, libertarians will say, "Oh, I'm not blaming China," but then they say China's complicit. Like, okay, then you are blaming China, right? Right? When you say that's blaming China, right? If you're suggesting that China's complicit, that's blaming China.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? But they're saying, no, I'm not blaming China.
Yeah. Well, I think what they're trying to say is, some secretive agency or somebody in like the CDC or Bill Gates. It's always Bill Gates. The other thing is, the Bill Gates thing. I talk about Gates and I do videos and I show Gates's connection and the last video, one of the last videos I made talking about his genocidal nature in terms of wanting to depopulate the planet. But focusing entirely on Gates with this is kind of a distraction. And it's certainly a distraction that plays in, again, to the libertarians. They love that. I don't know why, because they all love big business. And he's a
free markets. Free
markets. He's a fucking free marketeer himself.
Yeah, I've said, if it weren't Bill Gates, it'd be somebody else. It's not just him,
Soros or somebody else, supposedly on the left.
Like it's not just about Bill Gates.
Right.
Yeah.
So, what else we got?
Oh, I don't know. China, like I need to talk about. I mean, you said, sometimes I think you suggested I'm too protective of China or whatever. I guess it's because since last year I learned out the biggest lies are about China. Maybe that's why. That's what drives me nuts. The biggest lies are about China.
No, they're not. Not even close.
Okay, what then?
Biggest lies are about Palestine, because to them, Palestine doesn't even exist.
Okay. Well, I guess about
no one's questioning the borders of fucking China.
Yeah.
No one's suggesting China doesn't exist.
Yeah.
We're not bombing fucking China.
Yeah.
We don't turn a blind eye when
propaganda machine. Propaganda machine. I know what you're saying.
Right.
Propaganda machine is what I'm talking about.
Right. It's just like Team B. It's just like, the committee committee on the present danger. Now they have a committee on the present on the present danger, China.
Yes.
Which, by the way, that fucking guy used to be a Trump advisor who works with Breitbart. What's his fucking name? Bannon? Steve Bannon? Yeah, he's heading up that fucking shit.
There's a section there. Yeah.
Isn't he a libertarian too? Anyway, it's just like it was back in the 70s and the early 80s with the propaganda about the Soviet Union.
Yeah.
China's becoming the next big boogeyman.
Yeah.
to justify massive fucking spending,
Mm-hmm.
military spending, and spending on the fucking intelligence industrial complex.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there's a lot of lies, but in terms of the biggest and the worst, I still think you'd have to look at Muslim countries that aren't on board.
Well,
Like
there's a
Iran,
connection there. Yeah.
like Iran, like
Exactly.
Syria,
Yeah.
like fucking Palestine, right?
Yeah. Like
Uh,
Steve Bannon, he says the two biggest dangers to Western civilization are Islam and China.
right,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
So you still have that, but yeah, it's major. Is that what's that name? What's that Chinese writing next to your name on Twitter?
What is it?
Yeah.
It just says Barbara. 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 Babala. Babala. Something like that.
Now you're sure that that's what it says?
Yeah. I had a whole old Sifu, Tai Chi Sifu from China, and he taught me how to write my name.
Oh, cool.
And I haven't had any Chinese say, "What's with that? That doesn't make any sense." So I guess it makes sense to them. It's just Baba. You'll see the Baba. I'll see Baba, the Alibaba in the Chinese name, Alibaba, the company, the Jack Ma company. You'll see that Baba. Yeah. So that's my name, Baba. And it's either Ra or La. And it might be a La. I don't know. It's phonetic. Baba. It's pretty simple. That's all it says, Barbara.
Is it in Mandarin?
Well, yeah. Well, the writing Mandarin is the spoken language.
The written language is the same.
Yeah, but they're simplified and traditional. On mainland China, they've got the simplified version from the revolution, I guess. Places like Taiwan and other places, they'll have the traditional Chinese script, which is a little more elaborate than the simplified. I guess I have the simplified, I think, probably. I don't know. I don't know Chinese. I just know that's my name in Chinese. That's it. Okay.
All right. So we are about an hour and 10 minutes into this. Do you have anything else?
Actually, I think we should wrap it up. I guess. Oh, I got something on my teeth. Oh, I was going to say that as far as China, what I laugh at is all these people, whistleblowers galore. You know how whistleblowers are authentic, right? In China, there's whistleblowers and people disappeared, usually arrested or put into quarantine. They disappeared. So there are these booksellers from Hong Kong who disappeared, suggesting they were hijacked from Hong Kong. No, they had traveled to the mainland and were arrested because these are regime change assets.
That was years ago.
2015, yeah, 2015.
Yeah.
And I think one of them he's set up his shop in Taiwan now.
They brought that story back. They dusted that thing off and they brought that back.
Every old story about China, propaganda story, they bring them out. Bring all the Tiananmen Square assets, all the assets from Tiananmen Square. They brought them out to whip up the hysteria. It's just amazing. They just recycle all these stories over and over again.
Yeah.
But I love that people disappeared. There's a doctor who supposedly disappeared. What is her name? Ai Fang. I have to do something about her. So they were saying she's disappeared. And then a contact of mine said, no, I'm watching a webinar with her speaking right now. She's disappeared. She's supposedly a whistleblower. So they had this story about her being a whistleblower. And she says, I'm not a whistleblower. I provided the whistle. I'm like, what? This is the Western story about her. I don't know. It doesn't. So she disappeared, but no, she's still there giving webinars. Like, what the? It's just so stupid. You can't believe any of the stories in the Western media about any of this.
No. Well, look at what's the most obvious recently. Kim Jong-un he went and he's dead. He's dead.
And people are freaking out. I'm going, yeah, that's real.
Fine.
I knew right away that's
fine.
real. That's real. Jeez. It's so dumb. But people get sucked into this and they believe it. Oh, he's dead. God.
Yeah.
It's nuts.
But the country is so authoritarian, it wouldn't let him die. So now he's a zombie. Now he's zombie fucking Kim. Zombie Kim is running the fucking authoritarian country in North Korea.
Oh, I saw another thing. Max Blumenthal, he's made it to Chinese media. So he was interviewed on CGTN, one of the Chinese official media outlets. So he's infiltrated Chinese media now. God, it's great. The cognitive infiltration of Iranian and Chinese media is just disgusting. God.
That's amazing. That's amazing.
Yeah, he's made it. Yeah.
He's made it. A whole new market. That Chinese dollar, it's a big dollar. It's like the libertarian dollar. Only it's not a dollar.
Well, one of his assets has already been featured in Chinese media. Daniel Dumrell, that's another one I got to talk about.
Okay.
They're chipping away at China.
Not today, because we got to go now. Now at about an hour and 15 minutes.
That's like one of your videos now. They're always over pretty close to an hour or over an hour now.
Everybody watching was like putting their eyes out. Please just stop.
Stop it, Scott. It would be half the time if you take out the fucking this and fucking that. That's what I think now. If you just stop saying fucking, it'd be 30 minutes long.
Right. You know, if I just wrote everything down and I did it like that, you know, I could do it in 15, 20 minutes, I guess, but it's just not the same. It's not me.
No,
you know.
and
I've considered doing it, and I was a very good writer, but
I know.
it's just not. It's not me, and that's not why I do videos.
Yeah.
You know. But anyway, there you go. So I don't have anything really new to toss in to offer up. Bo is doing okay. The cats are doing okay. I'm doing okay. I'm getting a little testy with this whole lockdown thing. And I'll tell you the truth, I don't think the fucking left or certain factions of the right are going to let this thing fucking peter out before the election.
Well, the libertarians, they don't talk about the economic impact so much or how people are suffering. I don't hear that as much from them. I don't know.
They're starting to hear more, I think. More doctors are coming out talking about this stuff. And they're talking about the social implications and damage being done to the society by this. And even just regular doctors are talking about this shit. So I think hopefully in the near future, that's going to become less of a taboo subject.
Well, people are hurting financially. I mean, this is a big hit. That's why it's comparable to the Great Depression, but worse.
It's not just that, but also forcing people in hurts the immune systems, but it also forcing a bunch of people who were marginal people in the first place. We're talking about people who were the non-essentials. Yeah. They were marginal in the first place and barely hanging on. Now they've got even more pressure on them. So what's going to happen? You're going to have more marital fucking strife. Yeah. You're going to have more child abuse.
Yes.
You're going to have more
domestic violence.
Right. You're going to have more any number of things. Right.
Suicide. Yeah.
Right. So there's a huge price they're expecting people to fucking pay for this. And the whole point is what? To save lives? That's not how you save lives in a fucking outbreak like this in a pandemic. No. People are going to start realizing the whole point of this thing was to get that goddamn fucking money.
Yes.
And to remake society. I don't know how many times I now hear people touting the notion that, we can't go back to normal because normal was the problem in the first place.
Yeah.
They're starting to push the idea that we're going to use this moment to restructure our society. Yeah. And that, when you start hearing that meme, that fucking trope, that line of propaganda.
Well, that was Hong Kong. Somebody was saying, yeah, that was that line that you just said.
Well, that was a line that was painted by one of the fucking terrorist fucking regime change ops.
Yeah.
But that trope has been circulated before that. It didn't start with that guy.
Yeah.
I heard fucking McAfee, that fucking nutbag, obvious fucking asset.
Yeah.
I heard that motherfucker saying that he tweeted the same fucking thing. Normal was the problem. We can't go back to the fucking normal because normal was the problem.
What?
So what was the problem? Oh yeah, we were open society, somewhat free, somewhat able to move in on our own. We got to shut that shit fucking down because that's the problem. We got to change our fucking system. And when they start talking about that shit, then I want people to start thinking about the definition of terrorism. And what terrorism is to frighten the public and frighten the general public so that you can make changes to their political, economic, and social structures. We've made massive changes to our economic, political as well. New York just canceled their fucking primary and social structures. The new normal was a problem in the first place. So we shouldn't go back to normal. That's the definition of terrorism. So if you want to look at this, we should start talking about this fucking coronavirus for what it is. And it is being used as terrorism.
Yeah, I've called it another war of terror. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It's an act of terror.
Yeah.
It's not just war on terror, it's an act of terror.
Yeah, of terror.
Right.
Of terror. War of terror. Yeah.
Anyway, so it's been too long since we had a chat like this.
I know. We haven't, well, we did one when I complained about my flame war or whatever on Twitter. But we haven't really done one since November. And
right. That's the last one I recorded in November, right?
Did you record that one? I don't remember. Okay.
Right.
You don't usually record them, I think. I'll just record them on Twitter. And then
I don't know if I'm going to be able to put this up because it's only going to show one fucking frame of your video every 2 minutes. I might not put it up.
Well, I'll put it. I do the Skype recording, so I'll upload that. We'll see how it is. You don't have to.
So I'm gonna shut us off now. I'm recording, by the way, and I'm going to now say goodbye.
You're gonna lock down? Is this a lockdown? You're shut
locked down. I'm going to say bye, everybody. We're going to just do the. Thank you for watching. If you like the video, please like and subscribe down below. Everyone go over and say hi to Aunt BB and subscribe to her. Say goodbye, Aunt BB.
Bye, Aunt BB. Bye, Scott. Bye, Scott.
All right, there we go. I'm no longer recording. Are you still recording?
I will stop recording right now. Stop recording.